So friends, have you tried the reverse coloring thing yet? Because if you haven't, I think it's really worth your time. So today I have a fun project for us where I take you beginning to end, introduce you to reverse coloring, and help you understand a little bit how you can incorporate it into your creative journey. Now, I know what you're thinking, Kristy, I don't know how to sketch, and I know a little bit about this reverse coloring thing, and you have to be able to sketch. If you can doodle, if you can put marks down on paper, you can so enjoy this experience. All right. Do you want to doodle with me? Paint with me? Come on, let's go. Keeping it really simple today, friends, with supplies. I am using India ink, but it doesn't need to be ink. It can be watercolor. I'm using my Unshakable Joy brush from my Art for Joy's Sake brush collection. It's a 3/4 inch flat wash brush, and I'm using a plain old-fashioned good old Sharpie. Now, you might be wondering why ink and not watercolor? Why is ink your first choice? So here's the thing. India ink gets really happy in water and it really explodes. Whereas watercolor, depending on the brand, is not so excitable compared to ink. So I love ink when I want to get really splashy and see lots and lots of explosions super easily. But if you are using watercolor, just make sure to spray down your palette really well and really use a lot of water and then a lot of pigment and you'll be good to go. All right, let's start with the doodling. So remember what I said, you can make marks on a paper, you can do this. So I'm basically making a squiggly blob that has very bouncy, wavy edges and a little dot in the middle. Now let's do some leaves, a few lines, they don't have to be perfect, and a few teardrop shapes on the ends of those lines. All right, I want you to watch this through and then come back, try each one, pause, try it again, pause. Now, few little scratchy, really messy teardrops. Just get a couple of those on there, have them kind of all pointing in the same direction, and then messy lines going to a point. And there you have a little spray of leaves. So good. You can do this. Just a reminder. I'm going to keep reminding you that you can do this. All right. Big teardrop with a line in the middle. And then a few curved lines radiating from that line in the middle. And that is your basic leaf. You can do that way bigger, way smaller. You can make the edges of that leaf kind of ruffly and wavy. You can edit and refine this particular technique in so many ways to use in your reverse coloring journey. Good stuff. Next up, and notice my Sharpie is not in the best shape. It's not like the perfect Sharpie. So use what you got. All right, this one, big blob. This is probably the trickiest one. Off-center dot, and then where each indentation happens around the blob, I want you to make a curved line in towards that dot. Friends, this can turn into a pumpkin. This could be a persimmon. This could easily refine into an apple or a peach. That's going to be your trickiest one, so definitely give that one a practice a few times, but you're going to get it. Now, if you've watched my videos before, I talk a lot about a teardrop shape, especially in this video. So if you want to see how I talk about teardrops and how refining teardrop shapes can be like your superpower, go watch this. Now, same thing here with this flower. It's a few misshapen teardrops that have kind of some loopy, bouncy curves in them, and they're all kind of fanned out, and that becomes a side view flower. Next, a little bit of a ruffly circle in the middle, and then keep going around that circle with kind of crescent shape, very wavy, loosey-goosey, lazy crescent shapes, and keep going around and backwards and around and backwards and backs and forth and all the things. And I know I sound crazy, but just keep it loose. And before you know it, you'll have a rose, or you'll have a ranunculus flower, or you'll have a camellia. This is your perfect transitional flower doodle. And the secret is just to overlap those petals like bricks and not on top of one another, and you'll be golden. And then, of course, back to your teardrop leaves, and you have a gorgeous flower. Now, of course, I can go in, I can add line work like I did on that side view flower. I can do dots for accent. You can just do dots by themselves over top of your watercolor washes. Now you're getting a peek here underneath of where we're headed with all of this. And basically we're going to be doodling, sketching over top of a watercolor wash that we make. So and don't worry, I am going to show you how to build a really cool watercolor wash. All right, next up, a few circles are going to become berries. A circle with an off-center little tiny circle in the middle, or the blueberries have those little kind of ruffly collars, and then a few branchy lines and those teardrop leaves. It's all the same type of mark, just refined based on what you're trying to sketch. Love it. I love berries. I could just go on and on and on with berries. So fun, great filler. Friends, the point here is to be loose and free and imperfect. All right, here we go. A few little ovals, just bouncy shapes, all kind of like coming to a subtle point, and then a few of those teardrop shapes around them. Remember, all of these shapes are just a version of a teardrop. A version of a teardrop. And of course, I'm getting a little bit more complicated as we go along in this sketch doodle glossary, but look how loose I'm being. This is imperfect, but let me tell you what, it's so pretty and so gorgeous. And look at I'm going to that rose, adding a few of those little ovals around the center, and it becomes a garden rose. Love this. All right, let's do a swirl. A swirl. This is smaller. And as you're swirling your lines, you're going back and forth. So it's almost like you're in a maze and you come to a dead end and you turn around. That's how your marker is moving. I like the way I described that. That actually makes so much sense. And then go back in and darken up and thicken up a few of those lines, and you have another version of a rose. And remember, you can fill in these leaf shapes and make them black, or if you're using a different color marker, whatever the color is. And don't forget, you can use different color markers. You don't have to just stick to black. We are doing black today, but that is not the rule. Make a few swirly, graceful lines with a few short, swirly, graceful lines radiating out from the main one, and you've got a vine. Love it. I know what some of you might be thinking, like, this looks kind of messy, Kristy. Like, this isn't like your normal vibe. I know, and it's totally okay. When it comes together with the washes of watercolor, it all just starts to make sense, and it's lively and it's fun and it's expressive, and your art doesn't always need to look the same. It can have its own personalities. It can be, one thing one day and the complete opposite the next. As I've been chatting here, I'm just making some general marks, some vertical marks, some wavy marks, some diagonal marks, just to give you some ideas of how you can fill these pages. There's some cross-hatching. I love cross-hatching. That can be used as filler. It can also be used to define like shading on a particular item. And we're ready to go, friends. Hugs and kisses. All right, let's get going with the watercolor wash. I want you to have a spray bottle, lots of clean water, your inks, your watercolors, and I'm using this flat wash brush. Get some color on there, wet on dry, and then we're going to add a little bit more. That color obviously is a little more wet. Don't be too precious about it, worrying about it too much. And notice I'm using watercolor to start here, friends. I did not use the inks until, boom, now. So I'm mixing it up. See how that ink travels though, man? Ooh, it's so good. Get ready with that spray bottle. Here we go, and watch the color fly. Now at this stage, you might have an idea in mind. I'm kind of thinking like a fruit bowl. I'm just thinking about, I might sketch lemons over top of this, berries. So I have that in mind, right? Maybe you don't have anything specific in mind. Back to just watercolor, adding in some greens. I am letting that pink flow into the green. I'm just making marks. I'm not planning. I'm not thinking. I'm not overthinking. This is a wash. This is about just getting color on the page, seeing what happens, letting it dry, and then we're going to doodle over top, back to some watercolor. But watch that color fly. It's so good. All right, bringing in a little teal here because, why not? More spray. You can also start tilting the page, use a little bit of gravity at this point. Woo! Love it. Make sure you have something underneath that it's okay to get some paint on because it's gonna happen. You can't prevent it. I mean, you can, but I mean, why would you want to? Because that's where the fun happens. All right, back in with some ink and watch that ink just explode. It's so fun. I say that a lot. Somebody should count how many times I say fun or friends, and let's take bets. You should tell me in comments how many times you think I say fun or friends in this video. I'm using clean water now and just kind of splashing it onto the page. And look, it's creating almost a resist. I love that. And now I'm with a clean brush, just kind of scrubbing out to the edges because I do want to get a full page of color here eventually. Gosh, I love that splashing of the color of the, not color. Well, actually now it's white gesso. Yes, I'm going in with white gesso now, but I love splashing in clean water and letting it kind of diffuse the paint and then also the gesso. Ugh, if you've never seen me use gesso before in my paintings, it's a good time. Check out this video. It's so experimental, but holy wow. Friends, if you're having a good time, give this video a boop, which is a like, and don't forget to subscribe because I'm pretty sure you don't want to miss out on this kind of fun. All right, friends, now the fun really begins. I have a version of this wash. It's all been dried and I've done a little zhuzhing to it. I'm actually going to offer you up a download of this, a free download just to use for fun. And so if you want to do this exact reverse coloring session with me, you can. So check below in the information section and there'll be a link where you can download this and print it out and use it to your heart's content. Super excited. All right, I am using a different pen now. This is a Faber-Castell. It's a brush tip pen, and it's just something different. You can totally continue on with your Sharpie. Nothing wrong with using the Sharpie here, friends. I just think it's fun to switch up. I also just think it's a good idea that I show you some different options. So this pen is going to act somewhat like a paintbrush, but it's pre-filled with black ink. It's a little bit stiffer though, so it's great for sketching and doodling. So I'm starting up here. Remember I said I kind of wanted to do a fruit basket, right? And so up here I'm gonna do a little peach, and I'm basically following the shapes of my watercolor wash. I'm trying to seek out moments that make sense, like right there, a leaf. And again, friends, you know how I hold my pen, often almost perpendicular to the page. So apologies that I am somewhat eclipsing what I'm drawing. And so I seek out shapes. And there I saw an opportunity for a little flower, that bouncy, squiggly blob that we painted earlier. Here I'm going to do a side view flower. And look, I'm just following the shapes that were created in this wash. And oh yeah, there we go. There's the center. There's the center. And adding my little ovals. This is fun. And just follow the shapes that are created. Now, if you are using your own wash that you created, just follow those shapes. If you don't have a lot of shapes, you can do simpler doodles. If you don't have a lot of texture and stuff going on in your wash like I do in mine, just use some simple doodles, do overlapping circles, do overlapping hearts, do little scratchy marks. It doesn't have to be a thing. It doesn't have to be like my fruit basket. But if you're following along with the free download and you're working right along with me, just really pay attention to how these shapes are really informing where to put our doodles and our sketches. All right, now adding some more to the center of this flower. Love that. And then boom, a big leaf with the stroke up the middle. And I'm immediately seeing some opportunities for other leaves, creating like a spray of leaves. And notice I'm back to my Sharpie because why not? And now remember too, you can go right over top. You don't have to follow the shapes of your wash. I see a lemon up here, friends. I've been seeing a lemon up here for all the live long day, and it's just got to happen. So again, it's a teardrop, but it's just got kind of a bigger belly, so to speak. And then, of course, a little leaf on top there. And I'm using those dots. We talked about dots for shading and for interest. And how about a little swirly swirl? You remember this from the glossary we created earlier. Getting lost in the maze and then backing out. Create that swirly swirl rose. Look at that. This is coming together. And the other thing that I adore about reverse coloring is just the immediacy of it and the quickness of it. So don't forget, friends, if you're enjoying this video, give it a boop. That's a like. And of course, subscribe because I upload twice a week and you don't want to miss a thing. All right. Now I'm starting from the center. I see this big blob here in my wash, and I'm using a combination of those little sketched ovals, a dark center, and then just a squiggly blob repeated around and around and around. This could be a dahlia. This could be a type of sunflower, a chrysanthemum, and just around and around and around and around, and keep radiating those shapes. And boop, another leaf. You see this coming together. This is so good. All right, some dots, and let's see what happens from the dots. Oh, I am seeing, it feels like a little gourd to me. It feels like a little gourd. Remember that from our doodle glossary from earlier. Look at that. Yes, add a few linear details. And I created that dot and I basically radiated to the dot with my doodle lines. Some more lazy leaves. Friends, when you don't know what else to doodle or sketch, doodle a leaf, because it's just happiness and it's easy and it's effortless. Leaves are my jam. Leaves are my go-to. Leaves are like a springboard to so many other things. All right, let's see here. Just a little bit of a round shape that I'm putting in the background just to fill this area. Some squiggly, scratchy marks around the center of that big flower. That big flower is becoming my focal point for sure. Just another fun way to use your marker. Love it. And I'm also going to go in and intensify some other areas here. Remember, you can do that. It's not just about putting down one layer of strokes, put down several. And of course, blueberries, any kind of berries, these really could be. Just a cluster of circles with little dots in the middle. This is great for filler. And remember earlier, I said you don't always have to follow the shapes. You can go across shapes and see what happens, like I did with those berries. Some of the berries are in the red, purpley areas, and some cross over to the white areas. And again, back to my lovely leaves. Leaves are life. Leaves make me feel like I can do anything, because when I don't know what to do, I do leaves. I see a flower down here. It's got to happen. I started with a little center, and then I've got these kind of radiating half moon C curves, and it's kind of looks like a little bit of a side view. Don't overthink this too much. Just follow your shapes, follow your watercolor shapes. Gorgeous. All right, here's a side view flower. Thinking back to the glossary of doodles that we did earlier, those are just some super lazy modified teardrops that are all kind of radiating to one point, and then a few ovals to suggest a ruffly center on that side view flower. And then I'm just going to define that shape a little bit. It's some indescript kind of fruit. And of course, more leaves, more leaves. I want to do a little bit of a vine here because I'm trying to bring in all the elements from our doodle glossary. So remember the vine, just a graceful shape and a few short stems leading out from it, and then a few leaf shapes on the ends that I am filling in. I'm making these a little more angular on some because why not? It's fun. Change up the shapes. Keep things interesting. Gorgeous. If you're having fun with this video, I have another video on reverse coloring. It's a replay from a TikTok live, but it's worth it. It's super fun to go through. Okay, anybody counting how many times I said fun? So watch this video if you're having a good time and keep your reverse coloring journey going. Adding in some more blueberries here. At some point, you've got to step back, take a breath, and say to yourself, am I good with this? Do I want to let it rest for a little while? Am I, quote, done? But just always remember to take a moment in your art. I always say to be kind to yourself, but also to just take a breath and to decide if you're still feeling good about it. Are you starting to feel a little bored? Do you need to change up your technique, maybe your materials, or maybe you're just feeling satisfied. And that can be a great moment to just get up and walk away for a bit. Friends, I usually have about 10 to 15 paintings going at any given time, sometimes more than that, because I often will just take a breath and I will leave a particular painting and I'll come back to it a week later. Sometimes I'll come back to it months later. There is no reason that you have to go from beginning to middle to end every time you sit down to paint. I want you to remember that. I've said it before, but I haven't said it recently. You can just be happy with your beginnings and your middles and not worry about the ends of your painting, not worrying about the finish line. Who cares about the finish line, right? Really, unless you're trying to make a career out of this. And if you are, kudos, ask me questions below. But seriously, revel, cherish your beginnings in your art. That's where the magic is. This has been such a blast, friends. Super fun. How many times is that? Remember, I respond to all comments, so please hit me up below. Let me know what was fun, what was confusing. Be like, Kristy, I don't get it, or Kristy, mind blown. I respond to every comment. I cannot wait to chat with you below. And until next time, friends, happy painting.